I missed the result by zero point 0.7 marks. It was time for me to think very deeply about, what should I be doing? I realized that, uh, this job is not for UPSC. This job is for myself and, whatever the career. So I opted for the HR course. Professor Mullah said to me one day that, look, if you're playing the game, you need to play to win. Otherwise, don't play the game. I was never the person to do a desk job. I don't think uh, I think even till date, feel like an imposter in those buildings, the steel and glass, and the big boardrooms. But in my mind, it was also a stepping stone to something else. So that this is an impactful profession. You impact people's livelihoods. You work very closely with on people issues, solve some of their issues, drive productivity, all of those nice things that come with HR. But the leading joke in the UPSC circle is that the U stands for unpredictability. And you don't know what is coming, right? Like there is a syllabus, but there is also no syllabus. When you fail, you automatically become a little bit more resilient. Hardship is good, and it builds character. Break free as a experience itself helped me to create a very noticeable impact, right from the first year of my job. It helps you build thick skin and also makes you very responsive. And in my everyday job, that's my job. That's my role. The emergence of AI is a big shift in the way we look at operations and we look at jobs. I think across the board, we are seeing jobs being made redundant and, stories of layoffs and so on. I think I have always chased impact. And I think that was the idea of me pursuing UPSC also, do things and to take initiatives, work with the system to, create a positive impact on lives of people. Fight only if you have the fight left in you. Don't bother about the sunk cost. Trust the process and, improve the process if the process has not worked for you till now.
Hey everyone, welcome to DiscoverU Career Journeys. We'll bring you honest and inspiring conversations with career changers, coaches, HR leaders, and yes, even those who reinvented themselves during midlife career transitions. So grab a cup of chai, settle in, and let's kick off an honest chat, packed with simple, powerful advice to help you chart your own career journey. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new career journey. It may just be the inspiration you were looking for. Welcome back. This is part 2 of our conversation with Rushikesh Kulkarni. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I highly recommend starting there. You'll hear about Rishikesh's UPSC journey, the emotional roller coaster of trying and letting go, and how those experiences shaped who he is today. You'll find the link to part 1 in the description below. Now, let's continue and explore how Rishikesh found his way into HR, what he's learned through the years of his corporate experience, and his insights for anyone navigating change in their own career. So, Rishikesh, after stepping away from UPSC, how did you find your way into HR and what drew you to it? Okay, so I'm breaking this part up into one. Was it a deliberate choice or something that emerged through experimentation?
At 2015 is when I, missed the result by zero point 0.7 marks. It was time for me to think very deeply about, what should I be doing? And I was also thinking from, the point of view of, the UPSC interviewers. Maybe I was thinking far too ahead, far too optimistic. That, one day I'll be in front of, some of the very senior bureaucrats and policymakers. And they would ask me that, hey, look, you've turned 26, 27, you are a burden on the economy, you're not contributing anything. What does it mean? Is it justified? And so on. And at that point in time, I thought, it's a good idea to get a master's. My father had retired in 2014. So I mean, he would get a pension and so on, of course, but I had to also make uh, a choice of, what should I be doing, which will help me to prepare for UPSC very, um, in a balanced way. Because when you run your own venture, and especially a venture that requires you to be on the field, there's no routine that you can possibly have if you are, a travel organizer. So it made sense for me to make that choice and say that, there is a career which will offer me uh, some decent amount of money, as well as, an opportunity to prepare for the exam, and I could continue to support my family also. So
Hmm.
these were
So
these
I
two,
guess
three
finances here
requirements.
also had a big thing to
Yes,
play,
definitely,
of course.
definitely.
Yeah.
And, and I didn't want to not make a decent sum, because when you live in Mumbai, you need a decent amount to live comfortably at least. And, we started in a very, humble beginning sort of a way in Mumbai. So so that was also one, factor playing on my mind that, we need to change that sort of situation, which had remained sort of same for many years. Because the seventh pay commission came very late, so the salaries were very low, like single digits almost all the time. So growing up was a little tough. I said that, that change also has to happen. So there were multiple pressures. And then, but I didn't want to go and like take up a degree elsewhere. So, TISS offered multiple courses. And my idea was to pursue a course in urban governance, not even HRM, because I thought it's more related to UPSC. But after speaking to a friend, I realized that, uh, this job is not for UPSC. This job is for myself and, whatever the career. So I opted for the HR course, and it was the good part about TISS is that it has, or back then, I don't know. I think there are some changes now, that it had uh, one big portion, about 40% questions were GK. And that was very good, because I said that, I was a little cocky there. I said, I mean, how difficult can it be? It should be okay. I said, look, I didn't really prepare for GK, but there was math and reasoning and English, for which I had, I prepared for that. And I said, okay, let's go and, give the exam. And that was the only exam I gave. And it was just like one of those things that I was not 100% very, very serious about or anything. I didn't say that, okay, this or nothing. So, okay, I mean, I would just do break free otherwise. But because of that, I was able to get a good rank um, in the entrance test. And then, of course, there was an interview and so on. And, that way I was able to crack this net quite comfortably um, because of my UPSC background. So that was like this one thing where, 3 years of prep had not gone to waste. This was like, it was that first sort of a learning.
Good foundation in some way or the
Very,
other.
very good foundation, because uh, everywhere, in fact, even in the interview, uh, just the social awareness of, public issues or labor issues, which is part of your curriculum, really, helped me to have a very nice very honest conversation with Professor Mullah, who became sort of, like the guiding force in my life in, during the 2 years of the course. And so it was fantastic. And then I said, okay, might as well, now pursue this. I had no
Yes.
idea, what the curriculum looks like, and, what does it mean? Would I have to really shift my base and so on? But it was okay. So yeah, it was more of a chance decision that I took. And yeah, and then, you know, once you entered into that stream, uh, uh, Professor Mullah said to me one day that, look, if you're playing the game, you need to play to win. Otherwise, don't play the game. I said, okay, fine. I mean, it's the right thing to do. So I followed that, and that way, that HR track of my life, continued from that day onwards, from 2016 to now.
Yeah. But obviously, Now you've got this break free journeys happening, and then you're preparing for your UPSC, and which is government
Yep.
here, and
Mm.
which is a public service in many ways.
Correct,
Now
correct.
you need to move from public into this private sector, or this,
Mm.
this corporate world, as they call
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Did you have any hesitations moving from the world of public service into private
Yeah.
sector?
Yeah. I mean, to be very honest, yes, I was never the person to do a desk job. I
Hmm.
don't think. Uh, I think even till date, I feel like an imposter in those buildings, the steel and glass, and the big boardrooms. But yeah, so there was some hesitation. But in my mind, it was also a stepping stone to something else. So that this is this is an impactful profession. You impact people's livelihoods. You work very closely with on people issues, solve some of their issues. Um, you know, Drive productivity. All of those nice things that come with HR. Um, and there was an opportunity to prepare for the exam, and I could support my family. So that way it seemed like a, not such a bad, trade-off. I said, okay, fine, it makes sense to go for it. And, but yeah, initial hesitation was there that, be a certain way in a certain type of an environment.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Uh, Rishikesh, coming back to my favorite subject,
Yeah.
UPSC.
Yeah.
Many of the clients or many students who reach out to me, I think there's a constant worry, what do I really know that's useful
Hmm.
outside this exam world?
Yeah.
When you're looking back at what skills basically from your UPSC preparation
Hmm.
proved surprisingly valuable in corporate life. Uh, what advice would you give to others about spotting or leveraging these transferable skills in HR or any other profession,
Yeah.
really?
Definitely. I think this is a very good question because I've met many aspirants, and most of them end up feeling like I said earlier also that, okay, so now what?
Yes.
Does this not count for anything? And but every time I've met somebody, or I've also interviewed some of these folks, who are ex aspirants, there's a common thread that all of them display, right? So I think, and these are again operationally and philosophically. So philosophically, there are two three traits which really are essential in all walks of life. Like for instance, being comfortable with unpredictability, right? In fact, the leading joke in the UPSC circle is that the U stands for unpredictability. You don't know what is coming, right? Like there is a syllabus, but there is also no syllabus, and no, and it's a constitutional body. You can't really ask them anything. Um, uh, they are absolutely independent in their functions. But that you are prepared for that. And in the business world or in the real world, uh, in your personal life, there's a lot of unpredictability that comes in. But you're prepared because you know that there has to be a certain X level of preparation that goes in. And after that, you know, you've lost control, but it's just the preparation. And then it's how quickly you make do with what little you know. What are some of the associations that you draw? Are you able to see through, sometimes the situation is a little bit gray. So how do you make that decision with the limited piece of information? So that I think UPSC prepares you very well. um, Second, I think, is uh, resilience. When you fail, you automatically become a little bit more resilient. Um, and if you see, multiple CEOs, including Nvidia CEO, I think recently spoke about it, saying that hardship is good, and it builds character. And I agree to it. And I think when you've seen multiple failures and you've put in a lot of effort, and the opportunity cost is so much higher, And especially for folks who come from really premier institutes and who devote their time for the exam and then don't make it. uh, I think you become automatically very resilient, and resilience is tested everywhere, especially in the workplace. And even more, right? Like when the world becomes very dynamic, and AI is coming, and there's so much happening. Um, there's a lot of uncertainty that exists. So you have to be resilient. I think that you become really good at. I think one of the um, other things I think, operationally, I think that you become good at is that you become very adept at learning about something in a very short time. And this is what most of my friends who are, McKinsey, BCG consultants are very good at. They are deployed onto an industry, and within a few days or weeks, they are like they know everything about the industry. Like a friend I knew who was in the cement industry, and he could like know everything about cement and so on. But then, when I looked at myself, yeah, sure, even I know everything about the constitution. In a month or so, I could, the aspirants have really understood the constitution, all the, 100 plus amendments, how it impacts, and so on. What are the case laws? And the next month, they are learning everything about geography of the world and India. And they are now able to sort of combine everything together and make a logical answer out of that in 7 minutes in 150 words. So that sort of, managing information with limited amount of time, I think that's a very good skill that you get. And like in the corporate world also, you would have seen there's a lot of information overload that
Absolutely.
that you are
Yeah.
bombarded with, right? The moment you
Yeah.
log in. But if you've gone through UPSC, you know how to segment it. You know what is important, what is urgent. You tend to become a little bit better at managing your
Hmm.
resources and especially your time, and how you deal with information. I think these are, three, four skills which you can easily apply to the real world. Uh, and, that could make you a very, very good professional uh,
Yes.
in any field that you may choose.
Correct. Um, you also ran Break Free Journeys before this. It's a travel initiative that sounds quite different from corporate HR. You were
Yeah.
on the ground, you were taking people, you were traveling, you were doing hikes. And this was this a part of shaping your path and understanding people? Um, how did it do that in many ways?
Uh, yeah, I think it's so the funny story here is that in my placements time so this whole master's MBA works in a very they have a very competitive but also very funny in a wry sense of way, right? Like if you were to step back and look at the circus that comes in,
Hmm.
the moment you step in, you are prepared for something called as the summer placements. And summer placements are summer internships which start in April and May, the between your first year and second year, and they are paid, and you get handsomely paid for them. And you are supposed to uh, also maybe take a shot at getting a job there. They called it a
Okay.
pre-placement offer. So you have a chance of walking away with an offer in hand after your internship. So it's
Hmm.
a fantastic opportunity. So back then, when the recruiters come on board, they just look at number of years of experience. I mean, that's the standard apparently that many HR recruiters follow, and they don't take people with lot of experience. Uh, and so I had an option of not showing Breakthrough as my experience and just say that I'm a fresher with the UPSC preparation. But I was adamant on showing that. So I had to face a lot of issues getting my summer placements interview done. Nobody shortlisted. They said, oh, 5 years of work X. They didn't maybe scroll to the right and see what kind of work X and so on. But anyway, but each interview after that I've appeared for all Samsung, Pine Labs, and CleverTap. I think majority of the interview was about breakthrough and what I learned during that point in time. And, that's something that I've written about earlier also, saying that, this is something that you should be very proud of, including, your UPSC experience or whatever your experience is. Because there were many similarities. First is that, Breakthrough is a direct to customer sort of an platform, which essentially means that I have to be really open to feedback. If somebody doesn't like the trip, somebody says, writes a bad review, somebody says, like, I'm sorry, you're way overpriced or whatever the XYZ competitor does a better job. It helps you build thick skin and also makes you very responsive. And in my everyday job, that's my job. That's my, role. There's somebody constantly saying that, hey, look, this is where the company is headed. I'm not happy with the salary, or I'm not happy with my boss. I don't like the work I do. I was promised something else. I'm doing something else. And it's for me to not take it personally, and sort of just understand and empathize with the user or the customer. Here, my internal customer is my, the employees that I work with, and be responsive to them, which is something that Breakthrough taught me. Breakthrough also taught me that, you have to work with a lot of vendors and, constantly be coordinating. Because to execute one trip, you would need at least 4 or 5 stakeholders whom you need to constantly be in touch with. Um, so continuously communicating, even at the risk of over communicating, is good because you are running operations. Um, so I think that sort of you know uh, focus on execution excellence, uh, that came through Breakthrough, saying that, hey, you need to communicate, you need to give advance notice, you need to block a time, otherwise the vehicle gets booked out, the place gets booked out. Be on your toes all the time. So definitely, Breakthrough as a experience itself, you know, helped me to create, a very noticeable impact, right from the first year of my job, just because of these 3, 4 things that I had taken up as a philosophy or way of life.
Okay. Okay. So, coming to this big word called HR, okay, HR can feel very vague or even misunderstood. Okay. Could you break down what your, I'm not going to ask you for your day to day
Hmm.
activities as an HR business partner,
Yeah.
but what would a typical day look like as an HR business partner or an HR manager?
Um, I think there are two tracks in which we run, right? One is what we call the cyclical processes, which is typically the performance reviews and appraisals, salary increments, um, annual surveys, quarterly performance ratings, anything incentive calculation and payouts. These are cyclical items which keep running throughout the year. So I think one track is as and when whatever is happening during that period. I think that is what takes up most of the my time. The second track is the everyday interactions. So it could be some org restructuring, or it could be some employee who is not happy with the work that they're doing, or whatever the issue that they may have, or it could be some sort of training that we need to get done for a particular manager cadre, who is now all the new managers are coming. So what do we do? We need to work with the L&D team to understand the training requirements, ensure the training requirements are met, and sort of coordinate between the two. Places where we've seen a high level of attrition, you need to sit and analyze why that attrition is happening, and maybe do some things proactively. Now people have already left, for instance, then I need to work with the talent acquisition team to ensure that this is my requirement, these are a number of people I need to hire, this could be the job description, this is potentially the future skill that my business team would want to hire for, considering the project ABC that we are doing or XYZ that we are doing. Um, so, so working with the HR stakeholders and the HR specialist teams, and the business and the employees. I think that's how it is. And of course, at a monthly cadence, we will have meetings with the management to show these numbers. Okay, this is what your trending cost is. This is where your attrition is. You're so much above your cost. You're below your cost. So there is scope for, you know, uh, hiring more folks or, promoting somebody. I mean, those kind of conversations. But I think briefly, it's the employee life cycle management, which is the most crucial. I think from the time the employee joins us until they get promoted or they get they leave the organization,
Yeah.
that entire period, I am responsible for that.
Okay. Okay.
And this is, of course, not achieved just by me. There is a team that works with me, and
Yes.
so
Which you mentioned.
working with them is primary. But that's the
Okay.
general definition of HRBP job.
I'm going to jump into, should someone ever be curious about HR um, as a career, or, consider it in any way? What's the one thing that they could do to kind of test their interest? You've had an interesting journey to test yours, but someone who's kind of just diving right in. I asked this question, one, because a lot of people who take psychology
Right.
in their undergraduate,
Yeah,
uh, you know, program think that one of the direction is HR because they want to
correct.
help people,
Right.
you know. So, how would someone then test if this is the right space that I want to get into?
Uh, uh, See that we could break this up into two parts.
Yes.
One
Okay.
one is uh, uh, a category of folks where they are absolute freshers. Like you said, right? They are in their final year. They're doing
Yes.
BMS or BBA or BA psychology or master psychology. Second is are people who are already in existing jobs and they want to move
Hmm.
laterally into HR.
Yes.
Both are possible, but we'll take the first category first. Um, uh, I think one of the good things now we've seen, and including at CleverTap, is that, and also at Pine Labs, is that they are very open to hiring interns, and these are paid internships. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, and there are platforms like Internshala, which I've heard are good. And of course, most of the recruiters are very active on LinkedIn, and then they post this. And you can of course get a cold calling, cold mail, and so on, and you can reach out to these people and get internships. So first is to get an internship and try it out, whether you actually like the job and you get to see. Yeah, the only risk with that is that you may not get the full exposure to um, all things people, but you will at least get a decent flavor to test it out. Second is to speak to people who work in HR, also to find out, if HR is really for you. Because HR essentially is um, it's very close to bureaucracy, because all bureaucrats are supposed to be anonymous, so they're not to be heroes of the story. So even in HR, we are all silently working backstage. We are never the heroes or the directors or whatever. Our job is to ensure things run smoothly without the spotlight that it gets. That exists in business, right? But you are responsible for ensuring, like those folks, like the sales guys or the product guys or the engineering guys, they get to do their job well. Some people may not like that. Some people may enjoy being in the limelight, being at the center of action and so on. Essentially, HR is a support function, which means that your job is to ensure that the business gets done. So that is sort of the most fundamental understanding of HR. And if that is acceptable, then of course, then there is okay. Then what in HR? Whether you should do talent acquisition, whether you should do L&D, whether you should do business
Yeah.
partnering, you should do HR operations or
Because there's so many
compensation
diverse roles in that space
in with
itself.
that space, right?
Yeah.
Because then those are specialist roles. What I do is a generalist role,
Hmm.
which means that I need to know all of it, but not necessarily specialize in any of it. But I should have a knowledge for that so that I run the process as it should, and I bring it all together.
Hmm.
Um, so internship is a good idea. They can do that. Um, One of the other ways to get involved would be to take a full-time role and then do a master's in HR if you
Hmm.
really think you would want to do
Hmm.
you want to build a career in HR. Otherwise, you can go for a general MBA or another master's that's more suitable. So that leeway is there for you if
Yeah.
you are an absolute fresher. Uh, if you are an existing professional, um, I've seen a lot of business leaders turn into HR heads,
Yes.
because at the end of it all, business is all things people. So some of the excellent business leaders with best business acumen may fail if they don't, nurture the team well, do all the right interventions and work on their people-facing responsibilities
Hmm. Hmm.
or people management responsibilities. So there are opportunities. Again, internally, if you can apply, you can go ahead and do so. You could work on projects. Most of the time, all of us HR folks are very happy to collaborate on things like org culture,
Hmm.
more employee resource groups. For instance, in the DNI, diversity and inclusion
Yes.
space, you will have a lot of folks who lead the employee resource group chapters. So,
Okay.
like working parents, and they work with the management to bring in um, some of the changes in policy, and if that sort of exposure helps you, and then you can maybe decide if you want to switch completely. Um, in Samsung, we had uh, employee representatives from every group, and we used to call them culture champions. They would voice out, the voice of employees to us, and then we would do something about it, represent it to the management, and so on. So that way, you get to sort of experience what an HR business partner does or an HR professional does. And then if you are really interested, there are, of course, the other ways to do a course like a master's degree or a, post-graduation diploma, which is
In HR. Yeah.
in HR, and, then switch. But you should know that what it entails.
Yeah. You mentioned something about Samsung, and where would someone be able to find this information? Like, do they go on the company website and ideally reach out, or like, how would
Uh,
they know that they can kind of partner with somebody?
uh, Typically, it would be available on the intranet or the employee website of the organization that you work in. Uh,
Understood.
so, generally HR would send out a communication or, form for inviting participation. So I
Hmm.
think that's possibly one way to interact directly, or you can, also reach out to the HR person directly. And I mean, I think almost all organizations follow the HRBP structure, which means
Hmm.
that for about 250, 300 odd people, there will be one, two HR VPs dedicated for
Hmm.
that function. And they may open up some of these opportunities for you.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting to know. Um, this is we're in a time of layoffs, hiring freezes, and uncertainty in the job market,
Yeah.
Rishikesh. What are you seeing as an HR professional on the ground? I'm not going to ask you to specifically talk about the current organization, but from your colleagues, and what are you kind of seeing or hearing on the ground at this point of time?
Uh, I think the emergence of AI is a big shift in the way we look at operations and we look at jobs. I think across the board, we are seeing, jobs being made redundant and, stories of layoffs and so on. There are two, three things that, like from the HR lens, I am able to see. One is that people who are staying a little bit ahead of the curve, which means people who are upgrading themselves along with the times, and becoming better at what they were doing, or augmenting their skills by use of the AI tools, or really open to pivoting to other things. Um, um, then, then they seem to be doing quite well as a cohort, uh, which basically means that somebody who was only an MIS person, or just does data entry, is able to generate dashboards, is now adding much more value than what they could in their earlier roles. Or they are able to transition, take these bridge opportunities to get deeper into data analysis because they know the tools really well. Like they know Excel, for instance, really well. So are they able to, maximize the potential of the tool to create more value for the company or for themselves also? Um, that sort of shift in mindset towards your career is what is helping most people. Uh, Second, I think my responsibility also is, or all the HR folks, I think we are responsible to sort of work with the management to ensure that when such events happen, what are some of the humane ways in which we can go for, or go through with these things, or what is something that one must do to avoid these really, because one of the, I think back in 2020 to 2022, when the great resignation wave was sweeping, uh, people were quitting for, and that was also the time when there was like a VC boom in, and then the VC winter, the funding winter started in India. Back then, some of the recruitments that people made were but not very well thought through. So
Mm-hmm.
really, spending a lot of time doing workforce planning and then sticking to it, and sort of resisting the temptation to overhire when times are good and then laying off when times are bad. I think that's uh, that's something that, as all responsible HR folks, we must do. Saying that really, are we leveraging the access to information that we have to create, solid forecasts, and then securing the future with some of these decisions that we make now. Mm. Thirdly, I think what we are also seeing is that performance is a non-negotiable. I think that is becoming true very quickly. Um, so I think any sort of um, going easy or quiet quitting and that kind of thing, although they exist, uh, things are going to become, far more simpler to sort of identify and, weed out and so on. So, I mean, I wouldn't recommend those practices at all. Like if it's not a good fit, then, people must leverage this access to jobs, and, like the big job market that exists, and, then leave instead of, doing something like that, because that can be disastrous for one's career. um, while it may seem, very fashionable, I don't think it is good even for yourself, because then one loses out on the opportunity to become better and do things and really, live true to your potential. So I think that way, I think, that's the sort of sweep, or the three, four changes that I think that I'm seeing.
Okay. Okay. You describe yourself, okay, as someone still figuring it out. Okay. That in a world that pushes, titles and I think status and all of that, how do you kind of hold your space, Rishikesh, for your own career ambiguity? Like, how do you do
Yeah.
this?
Um, I think uh, I have always chased impact, and I think that was the idea of um, me pursuing UPSC also. I think the whole entire mode was that, I end up becoming, uh, not just a cog in the wheel, but, do things and to take initiatives, work with the system to, create a positive impact on lives of people. So as long as that is being met, then, everything else becomes sort of uh, redundant, right? I mean, I may be a senior manager there here, but in like another organization, they may call me a VP. Like if I was in a bank, I would be a AVP or some big fancy title like that. But I don't really think from those lenses. I think it just impact is what matters. Being true to your potential. I think being able to contribute positively to the entire ecosystem, and impacting livelihoods is a very very crucial thing, right? Because somebody's livelihood is a big part of their identity, right? Is the first question that you ask is, what is your name, what do you do, and what you do
Yeah.
is mostly what you do for work. And if they're not having fun at work, then it's a problem, and that's a problem that I get to solve for. So yeah, I think as long as I get to do that, I think all of the other things are just hygiene. It doesn't matter.
Mm, yeah. And I guess you're still a work in progress for all of that. So it's,
Yeah, definitely.
a- and I think your experiments from UPSC to Break Free to HR have shaped a specific direction.
Yeah.
And do you think it's important for people to explore multiple paths before finding something that fits?
Hmm. I I don't know, because I know folks who came right out of college and they joined TSS, and they are excellent HR professionals and they are happy doing it. I don't think there's an easy way to tell. But I think, so something that we spoke about and that I wrote about also is the idea of, multi potentiality. Uh, and I always feel like that's a good way to look at life. And if you find your calling early on, nothing like it. But in today's world, there are opportunities for you to shift careers. Like one of my very good friends who works in Amazon now was a medical doctor. Um, and she came to TIS, and she's an excellent HR professional, and like really accomplished, and she's doing so well. So I think it's good to have these experiments to try out. But again, I can't really recommend that as a must do because the opportunity costs vary a lot. I think in my case, I have to be really grateful to some of the people I met, and they shaped my journey. Because these could turn out to be expensive bets. But so if you don't end up really, finding what you're looking for, then it may um, you know, delay everything more. So,
Yeah,
but it's good to experiment. I'm not against that. But again, what is your risk appetite? How much can you really
fair
push? I
enough.
think that's
Fair enough.
that's an honest conversation you need to have with yourself at
Yeah.
that point in
I
time.
think you kind of need to prioritize what's practical at that point of time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Um, any one myth about HR or the private sector that you think needs to be challenged? Rishikesh?
I think, yeah, I think the um, what does HR people do all the time, or what do they do? Uh, what does HR stand for? Is everybody HR? Like some people say, "Hey, you are my HR." I mean, I think it's a very misunderstood term. So I think HR professionals need to show more visibility about their work and what do they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the fact that the short answer to your question is that uh, it, the myth is that HR people don't work or they don't have much work. I think that's a myth,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that needs to be challenged.
Okay. um, any book or any blog or any kind of experience that has helped you during when you were stuck or during your transitional phase, Rishikesh, that you can share with us?
Um, I think I really got introduced to the idea of Stoic philosophy
Mm,
um, around the time of preparation. So around 2013, 14 onwards. So I think that helped me quite a bit. Just reading the same works and, reading Seneca, reading, Marcus Aurelius. And of course, then came writers like Ryan Holiday, who made Stoicism much more accessible. But I still recommend that you read the original works. And those books, really gave you a good direction because they are so old and, it's such,
and it doesn't go
uh,
old. It's just
yeah, it
basically.
doesn't. It's like timeless. And it's a good philosophy to have. So I think Stoic philosophy really helped me stay
Mm,
grounded. And I'm not a practicing Buddhist, but a lot of ideas in Buddhism, especially focusing on the present, being, practicing equanimity, treating everything the same, the good and the bad, and the ugly, all the same. I think that uh, has been very, very important to me. And when I went for the Vipassana course last year in August, I think I did a further deep dive into this philosophy. So I think both Stoicism and Buddhism, in many ways, helped me throughout the phase. Right, every time, no matter what I did, these two philosophies have always been with me.
okay. And finally, Rishikesh, for those, there are two parts of my finally that I would like to kind of conclude with. One is for those trying to enter or pivot in today's job market. What are 2 to 3 practical? I know you've touched about it briefly as we've moved along, but any 2 or 3 practical things that they can do to stay grounded and get noticed?
Now, give me an example of what would this look like.
I would say
So,
that one, do they have to be a little bit more true to themselves and stick to, for example, their strengths?
no, I mean, when you say that they're trying to enter or pivot into today's job
Today's
market,
job market,
uh,
what are
the
two?
pivot would mean that, like, hey, look, I'm into marketing, but I'm now getting into writing,
Yes, yes.
right? Um, I think having a beginner's mindset. Like when I started my journey into HR, I did not know, a lot of things. But I took that as a good starting point, saying that, hey, I don't know how to do this. Many professionals, when they enter, or the young professionals, when they enter into the corporate world, uh, they don't really focus on the tools, right? Whatever the tools of the craft, right? So like a standard uh, consultant or general management professional or even an HR professional, I think it could be a simple tool like Microsoft Excel, uh, and knowing that really well gives you a very good edge over somebody who is also starting out with you. And because that's the tool that is there to help you do your job better. And so when I joined Samsung, I spent a lot of time focusing on learning Excel. And of course, my seniors were there, like a friend, who was there with me in Fine Labs also, Teresa. She's excellent at Excel. So I had to like really, be a absolute beginner and learn from her, saying, how do I do this, or having tough conversations. That's a skill that I need to build, which I learned from, my previous boss, Raji, who said, this is how you split it up and this is how you approach it, right? Like you need to have a script, or you uh, listen more, talk less, that sort of coaching framework. And but having a beginner mindset, saying, "Hey, I don't know. I may have completed 7 years or 8 years, or I have run an entire outfit by myself, so I know everything." So I think that really helps you to gain the edge also and remain grounded also. Second is to seek help. Be shameless about it. Put your ego aside. What may they say? They will say no at best. They'll say get lost. They'll block you. But many people are very forthcoming in offering help, uh, especially when you enter into something new. And because they understand where you're coming from. They've been there. I'm not saying every door that you knock, somebody is going to welcome you in. Um, but some will open, and some may give offer their help. Um, so it is very important, and that's how you will build a network also. Because then the
Yeah,
next client that you need, or the next
absolutely.
opening comes, it
The
will come from there.
networking builds the, your journey forward.
Yes, and you have to be absolutely humble in seeking for that help and being thankful. And of course, you can then pass it on, because as you grow further,
Yes,
there will be somebody who will be there. Um, I think beginner's mindset, asking for help. Uh, I think these are two
fair
things
enough.
definitely that you should have.
Okay. And especially for someone attempting a UPSC
Uh-huh.
several times, I do want to conclude with what would your take, or what would some advice be to that one person, who we can just give them that support, or tell them something that makes them either go on and be like, oh, you know what, this is it.
Uh, okay, it's a very important thing to say. Um, but I think uh, there are there are just maybe two things to say to people who have attempted the exam several times. First is um, you know fight only if you have the fight left in you. Uh, if you don't bother about the sunk cost, because a lot of folks say that, hey, you know what, I have already given 4 years, maybe one more year it will help, and so on. If don't have that mindset, have if you're only willing to fight it out, uh, then go for it. Not because you've already fought for so long. That's not a good enough reason to keep trying. Because it's like the butterfly effect in action, right? Like one next move, and entire different world opens up. So that's not a good enough reason to keep going. Only because you absolutely believe that you can do it, only then you should go for it. Um, Most ordinary people crack the exam, and they follow. They are true to their efforts, and they are true to, I mean, of course, there is some X factor, of course, because it's not like you follow all the things that they do and then you will also clear. But I think to do the basics right, uh, and I don't think it is about being extraordinary or anything like that to crack the exam. So I think it's important to not blame yourself or think that something's wrong with you. I think just trust the process and improve the process if the process has not worked for you till now. And third, I think if both the two things are not there and you think that this is the end of the road for you, then like I said, the world is very big, multiple opportunities, and location is no more a constraint. You may be placed in any place in the world, in the country, and yet you can access all of these opportunities that we spoke about. A master's degree, a government job, a state government job. It's not the central government. Um, Public-private partnerships. Organizations in the PPP sector, organizations in the developmental sector. Um, I mean, there are multiple things. Uh, like a coaching job, you can actually become a decent teacher of a subject that you choose, and if you're good, then of course you get a lot of uh, opportunities to grow and excel, and become an entrepreneur of in your own right. Entrepreneurship, absolutely, also true. Just something from the start, not just coaching. Um, yeah, I mean, I think multiple opportunities exist. So if the first two answers are not met, then the world is still beautiful. There is a lot more to be done, and there is so much to be done in a very short span of time. So it's just the choice that you make. But once you make the
Yeah.
choice, you should then stick.
Yeah. Great. I know that you do write a blog, Rishikesh, and if people want to know more about your work, where can they find you on social media? What is the blog?
It's called Common Logs. It's like
Okay.
common and dialogues combined. Yeah, I try to write every Monday. I try to post every Monday, and I try to write over the weekend. But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I'm there on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I'm happy to speak to anybody. And of course, if somebody reaches out to you, you have my email address, and I'm
Yes,
happy to
and we
speak
would
with
be
them
sure
also.
to kind of include the links of for our viewers in the description
Right.
below. But thank you so much, Rishikesh. I think I got more insight about your journey, one, and about a subject which is very close to my heart because I do get a lot of people who reach out to me, um, going through their journey
Mhm.
of UPSC. So thank you so much for sharing your experience and your journey. I'm sure this will definitely inspire our audience.
I
And
hope
I
so.
wish you all the best.
Thank you so
Uh,
much.
on your journey. And to our viewers, we hope you found this conversation insightful. Stay tuned for more episodes of Discover You Career Journeys, where we aim to bring you more inspiring stories. Thank you. At the end of each career journey, we bring you key learnings from our conversation with the guest. Here's what we learned from Rishikesh's story. UPSC preparation may not always lead to a civil services seat, but it builds an unshakable foundation of discipline and resilience that carries into every career. For Rishikesh, moving into HR was not an accident, but a deliberate choice, one that showed him how this profession, though often behind the scenes, directly shapes people's livelihoods. His journey reinforced that resilience is not only critical in exams, but also in corporate life. And as the job market shifts with the rise of AI, adaptability becomes even more important than certainty. Along the way, mentorship and networking proved invaluable, opening doors and accelerating his growth. Rishikesh also highlighted the power of keeping a beginner's mindset, being open to learning and seeking help at every stage. For those exploring HR, he suggests internships and projects as the best way to gain a true feel for the role. Finally, his path is a reminder that experimenting with different careers can lead to opportunities that are both meaningful and fulfilling. These are the lessons Rishikesh leaves us with. Insights shaped not just by his UPSC journey, but by the choices he made after. Thank you for watching this inspiring conversation on DiscoverU Career Journeys. If you've enjoyed this chat, hit the like button and let me know in the comment section which part of today's story inspired you most. And if you have questions about your own career or want to hear from people in a specific industry, drop those suggestions below as well. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new career journey. It may just be the inspiration you were looking for.